everyone. Welcome back to this special ABBA weekend. And, well, you might notice yesterday's ABBA song was actually recorded in the old studio. And now, today, I am recording the second one here in the new studio. A bit of the cross-pollination between the two studios as we have been making the transition. Well, today's song is entitled Fernando. That doesn't really sound like well, let's just say it sounds more Italianate or Spanish maybe? Fernando? I'm curious. Let's see what I have to read and then we'll listen. Fernando was written by Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus for their fellow group member Anni-Frid Lyngstad and was included on her 1975 album Frida Ensemble. The following year, Fernando was re-recorded and released in March as the brand new track for the 1976 compilation album Greatest Hits and was also included on the group's fourth studio album Arrival in Australia and New Zealand. Fernando is also featured on the multi-million selling Gold Greatest Hits compilation. Seems like it was quite popular if it showed up so many times. The song is one of ABBA's best-selling singles. Oh, okay, makes sense. With 6 million copies sold in 1976. In 1976 alone. It is one of fewer than 40 singles to have sold at least 10 million physical copies worldwide. The name Fernando was inspired by a bartender of that name who worked at a club the band frequented in Stockholm, Sweden. So he was actually in Sweden. Was he Swedish, I wonder? I have no clue. But let's see what the song sounds like.
Can you hear the drums, Fernando? I remember long ago another starry night like this. In the firelight, Fernando, you were humming to yourself and softly strumming your guitar. I could hear the distant drums and sounds of bugle calls were coming from afar. They were close now, Fernando. Every hour, every minute seemed to last eternally. I was so afraid, Fernando. We were young and full of life and none of us prepared to die. And I'm not ashamed to say the roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry. There was something in the air that night.
Okay. I have to pause it. Oh, this is interesting. Well, I've heard two ABBA pieces so far. I've listened to, well, the first one I listened to was Happy New Year, quite a while back now. And then, well, just yesterday's song. So those are the two that I've listened to. And what can I say? I guess I just love the voice in this. It's that beautiful voice that really catches and holds you, doesn't it? Well, the first thing I noticed, of course, was the sort of semi-orchestral quality as it was fading in. For a moment, I thought maybe it was inspired by Tchaikovsky something, but then as it built up, no, it doesn't have the Tchaikovsky sound. It has, it's a bit lighter, a bit more folky, shall I say? Traditional folk music sounding, but still in an orchestral style. And then the drums, certainly they set a marching beat. And it's kind of nice the way the drums started first, and I started to feel myself falling into the rhythm. And then the first question, can you hear the drums, Fernando? It's interesting to me also the way the lyrics are developing this picture. Can you hear the drums? I remember another starry night like this long ago. In the firelight, you were humming. So it's recollecting an experience shared by these two individuals, right? Fernando and the singer. And it's funny. It says, I could hear the distant drums, speaking of that time in the firelight. And the sounds of bugle calls were coming from afar. Okay, that sets up the scene. And then immediately after that word afar, they were closer now, Fernando. I'm trying to make sense of it. I think that the idea is that this story is building, the experience is building. Starts from afar, then they're closer. Every hour and minute seemed to last eternally. I was so afraid. And then the next thing I noticed, the roar of guns and cannons. Well, that's certainly not some distant drums and bugle calls from afar. It's coming closer, and it's certainly no longer in the firelight strumming the guitar. So it's like the memories are blending together and washing together, and it is speaking of this obviously wartime experience between two soldiers, and their recollections and memories of it, and how this sticks with you, sticks with a person. And the music also has that sort of, it's kind of light, cheery. It has that happy going off to war feeling of young people, excited for the adventure. We'll go, we'll fight, we'll have our heroic moments, and then we'll come back and it will be, glorious welcome and return. That sort of spirited young person's naive foolishness, shall I say? And the other thing that kind of is interesting to me is that although this is a story from one former soldier speaking to another former soldier, it's a woman's voice singing it. Somehow her voice fits this so well. I have a hard time picturing this being asked by a male soldier. Really, I think, what sort of context could this be where it was a female soldier way back then, I'm thinking World War I, World War II. I'm pushing it back a bit, of course, because this is certainly more modern than that. But there's something about this voice that feels like she had this experience. She carries this ache and this sadness in her. Well, I guess I spoke about that with The Winner Takes It All. It's been a while since I did Happy New Year, but I think I might have even talked about how even in that Happy New Year, there's this something in her voice is so beautifully sad. And, well, perfect voice for this, isn't it? But it's interesting to me that I'm having a hard time separating her voice and the image of a woman with this question and this recollection that's developing in this story. And it's kind of an interesting thing to notice in myself. Okay, let's keep listening.
And none of us prepared to die. And I'm not ashamed to say the roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry. There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright.
transition there.
Now we're old and gray, Fernando.
Okay. Such a nice stepping on the brakes there and pulling us back after that more rousing chorus. And even the chorus, I'm going back to this idea of, is this a female fighter or a male fighter? The story, if I were reading it here, I would think, okay, 2 young men, soldiers. But with her voice, and now as I'm listening in the music and everything, it brings the feminine, the female element into it in a way that I can't get around. I can't just write it off as, oh, it was a great choice of voice for the song. It's as if there was a female fighter back then, and this line of, there was something in the air that night, the stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me. That line, for you and me, sounds even a little bit romantic, doesn't it? Like there's a little bit of love in the air. There's some close bond. Of course, then it says, for liberty, Fernando. So then it takes us back to this wartime story. But it makes me think that this is more than just a story of soldiers recollecting their fighting days. This is symbolic of, or can be taken as symbolic of, something entirely different. I'm not going to say more than that until I get to the end of the song, because I need to finish my way through here. But that is coming to me so strongly in this piece that, as I said, I can't get around it.
If I had to do the same again, I would, my friend Fernando.
Nice triplet there. Ya da dum bum da 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 dum dum.
Now we're old and gray, Fernando. Since many years I haven't seen a rifle in your hand. Can you hear the drums, Fernando? Do you still recall the fateful night we crossed the Rio Grande? I can see it in your eyes, how proud you were to fight for freedom in this land. There was something in the air that night, the stars
Makes you
were
want to sing along, doesn't it?
Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for liberty, Fernando. Though we never thought that we could lose, there's no regret. If I had to do the same again, I would.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I like the way the bass and the drums emphasize this. If I had to do the same, my friend. I haven't spoken much about the instrumentation other than alluding to the orchestral quality of it. But the piano, the whole blend is nice. But a moment like this is the sort of thing that makes my eyes sparkle, as you know, where it feels as if the music, the instrumentation, everything comes together and becomes inseparable, and at the same time enhances, illuminates, and speaking in terms of, the old illuminated manuscripts, adding some gold leaf around the edges. This is one of those really great moments. Listen to this. Happy, we're singing along. Nice, nice.
There's no regret. If I had to do the same again,
If I had to do the same again. And then it carries on.
There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for liberty, Fernando. Though we never thought that we could lose, there's no regret. If I had to do the same
Well, the Rio Grande allusion reference kind of sets it in a specific location and explains the name Fernando, right? So now I have so many different associations running through my mind with this piece. I mean, the Rio Grande and Fernando, suddenly it becomes very, southwestern United States, the Rio Grande and the Rio Grande Valley and of course Fernando. There we go. At the same time, as I said, I still can't escape this female voice being such a part of the story. Although reading through the lyrics, old and gray, my friend, it's clearly two former soldiers speaking. So what does that do for me? Well, it excites me. It makes me want to explore the ideas expressed not just in the lyrics, but through the music. Take some time living with it and see really how it settles out. Because sometimes these first impressions, they hit you, and then after a while you listen and realize, actually, that was pushing it a bit too far. Other times, new ideas and new ways of relating to the piece develop and become even stronger and stronger. I guess this is one of those pieces that I will have to take some time and listen and just let it settle in me and see where it takes me in the long run. But now you know how the first exposure was and what sort of impact it had on me. Musically speaking, the instrumentation of it. I guess I want to talk about that a little bit, because one of the things that I find that I am enjoying about this ABBA exposure, this ABBA experience, is noticing how they're really quite expansive with their use of instrumentation. We have flutes, piano, drums. I think I heard guitar. There's almost a full orchestra. There's maybe some mandolin or something like that, and strings, brass, the whole works, right? But never did one instrument or one instrument family jump out at me and seem to take center stage. Yes, I heard the flute. Yes, I heard the drums. Yes, I heard the bass. Yes, I heard the piano. I enjoyed each one for its contribution to the whole. But I never felt like, well, let's just say, for example, Queen. When Freddie sits down and plays the piano, sometimes the piano takes center stage, or Brian May's guitar. Sometimes that takes center stage. Here with ABBA's music, I haven't heard that type of, okay, let's focus on one instrument for some seconds, some minutes, some eternity, which is wonderful and great. But here, the balance. And it is, I guess that is why I feel like referring to it as orchestral. Orchestral in the sense that it is a whole orchestra, many different instruments. Each one has something to contribute. We hear each one in its own special place. But it is the orchestra. It is not the orchestra plus a soloist, other than the voice. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the balance and the clarity, the ability to enjoy each one of those instruments and its contribution in this whole. And that's one of the things that I'm noticing as I spend more time with ABBA. And I guess I'll try to keep my ears open for it in future as well. Well, this has been a fun weekend, and even though it was split between two studios, I got the chance to enjoy two really nice ABBA songs. I guess I begin to appreciate their sound, their style. And if you haven't noticed, I've fallen in love with Annie Fried's voice. The depth of both beauty and sadness, even happiness. It all comes together in one voice. And perhaps I could call her voice orchestral in that respect. There's everything in there, and each bit comes out where it should. So that was my first exposure to ABBA's Fernando, and what a lovely piece. I'll be spending more time with it, and I'll see you soon.